Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to the Games Galaxy Megastore in the heart of Consett, County Durham. You've seen the snippet, let's have a good look at seeing what they've got. First up is the N64 collection, and that chameleon twist is a beautiful, very clean box, and they've got a really nice selection. There's a few titles that I actually do want to pick up. Moving down, we've got some NTSC titles, along with this one, Killer Instinct Gold boxed, and honestly, this one was very much tempted, because if I'm honest, Killer Instinct Gold is a title that I just genuinely do not see enough, especially boxed. It's a very early N64 release. It's an absolutely beloved Rare title, and when I mean Rare, I mean Rare the developer, but it's just so uncommon to see loose, but also even more uncommon to see boxed. I really wish I picked this one up. I couldn't afford everything I wanted in here. But moving on, we've got a few of Japanese ones. If you look further down, we've got Mario Tennis, a very beautiful Pokemon Stadium, and Lilac Wars. I love Japanese boxes. And this one, Blast Dozer. Now, Blast Dozer in the West was called Blast Course, and if I'm perfectly honest, is one of my all-time favourite N64 titles. And it's something that I've just never ever seen done again with the, not even just the N64, with other consoles. A title where you have to stop the world from being destroyed because of a missile carrier is going in a straight line. You've got to demolish everything in front of it. It's arcadey, it's fun, it's a lot. It's challenging. It's very challenging at times, but honestly, it is one of my favourite titles on the console and in general. And it's just nice to see Japanese titles. I love Japanese artwork. We've got stuff like Mario Tennis, Derby Stallion, and for me, even just the N64 box itself has a lot of nostalgia. When I first started with collecting games and discovering games on a whole, I started end of Super Nintendo, early N64 life. So seeing all of this hype for the N64, seeing all of these Japanese imports of Mario, Pilot Wings, and that box sticks in my mind of how cool the N64 was going to be. Moving into Game Boy Advance, and we have some very familiar faces of SpongeBob, you know, the Kim Possible, a lot of the movie tie-ins, not exactly rare stuff, but not stuff that's common either. But when we move up into the next section, we have our Golden Suns, Final Fantasy, Zelda's Advance Wars, Wario Lands, and a few other select titles, including this one, Super Robot Tyson 2. Now, Super Robot Tyson 2 is basically the Super Robot Wars franchise, an amalgamation, a crossover of a lot of mech series in a very addictive strategy title. Moving on as well, we have Lady Seer. That's a title that I kind of saw all over the place at one point, but now very rarely see it. And we also have this, a second-hand Game Boy Advance Lite, which honestly, I just don't think we see enough of this day and age. Moving down, again, we have a few other common titles and uncommon ones, including, I wouldn't say it's an uncommon title, but Tetris 2. Now, interestingly enough, the reason I was pointing at this is because I was with my friend Sam, who actually sold this copy of Tetris 2 quite a few months ago, and he said to me it was Tetris, but it was Tetris with a different spin. He didn't like it, but honestly, it is one on my list I do want to pick up eventually, but it's one I'm going to leave for now. Other titles we see here, Dragon Warrior Monsters, Harvest Moon 2, Sonic Advance 2, all perfectly enshrined, along with a few more Japanese Game Boy DS titles. Moving further across, and we have a ton of Lego. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I love seeing Lego on display. There's just something so fantastic about Lego products. They just look fantastic, and if I had the space, I would have so much more. But I went anime figures instead. But honestly, these just look fantastic. That Darth Maul is just so amazing. Moving on, and we have Sega stuff again. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know my Sega stuff. I never had a Sega console when I was young, but I always appreciate the amount of attention to detail for the displays for some of these as well. Just looks great. It really utilised their space. While some of the stuff is spines, you can tell what it is, and I love the inclusion of having the consoles on display as well, should they have it. Moving, we've got Sega Saturn stuff, we've got Dreamcast stuff, we've got a lot of import stuff as well. Honestly, if I was into Sega, I would be spending so much here. I love the boxes for Sega stuff. I just never have that nostalgia. I have the nostalgia of seeing them, but not like what of ordering. But again, it's just, everything just looks so fantastic. I love the presentation. I love how things are set out. Obviously, we are dipping into stuff like PC Engine. We've got PlayStation imports and stuff like that. Twinbee, I recognise that game as well. Point Blank, Dino Crisis. Hamtaro is that as well, yeah. More cabinets, and we have some imported Japanese Sega Saturn stuff. Honestly, the boxes just look so good here. I'm not going to pretend I know what half of these games are, but honestly, it's just amazing being able to step into a place and just see so many different games that you didn't even know existed for consoles that you probably not even batted an eyelid at. When you go to a lot of other places, like obviously they've got a Super Nintendo, they've got an N64, and they've got all your popular consoles, but it's very uncommon to see a lot of Japanese imports, and especially at the amount of skill that Galaxy Games does have. It is absolutely refreshing. We started getting some PlayStation stuff, along with a lot of steelbooks, a lot of collector's editions, a lot of bits and bobs and stuff like that. One of the things I did appreciate with Games Galaxy is that they do have a lot of like collector's items and stuff like that. That stuff you just wouldn't see normally in a normal shop, along with Atari. Moving on to Super Nintendo box, and yeah, they've got a nice little collection here. Not a huge selection, but what they do have is rather nice, and there's a few titles that I was very tempted to start. I mean, I don't collect Super Nintendo because I've got a lot of the stuff unboxed, but I must admit, I'm very tempted. One of the ones I do want is Theme Park, however, and we will see Theme Park a lot of times during this video. Honestly, it's a console that I love, but I'm not buying for at the moment. And yeah, it's just nice just to see different things. Obviously, we've got GameCube, a lot of familiar faces here: Simpsons Hit and Run, Phantasy Star, Luigi's Mansion, Metroid Prime, Twilight Princess. I'm gonna be honest, I probably should have asked how much that Twilight Princess game was. It is one of the very big hitters on the GameCube that I don't own. I do own it on Wii and Wii U. I just never went and bought the GameCube one, and it's just continued to rise in price. So I probably should be looking and seeing how much that thing is, because if I'm honest, I would actually sit and play through a Twilight Princess. It is an absolutely fantastic game. We've got a few other Simpsons games, Road Rage, we've got 007 from Russia with Love. These are the high profile, these are the more expensive GameCube games and stuff that you wouldn't see normally, including a copy of Castlevania. But again, as we move down, we've got a lot of the Japanese imports. Again, I love Japanese box art. I've got a few titles such as Wind Waker and One Piece already, but yeah, they look fantastic. Wii U console doesn't have many big hitter titles, but it's always nice to see them, and it's nice to have this little Nintendo shrine as we move along. More Wii stuff. Xbox 360, and this is obviously the collection of Xbox 360 games that are expensive, along with a bunch of, Lego games and stuff like that. Moving around the corner, and we have some more classics, including some really nice boxed Sega Master System stuff, and plenty more boxed Sega Master System games. Absolutely immense collection here. Absolutely immense. Oh, honestly, if I was collecting Sega, I would be like a kid in a candy store right now. Moving on, we've got NES, we've got some of the NES classics, we've got Super Famicom stuff. We've got, obviously, NES itself, along with a bunch of NES games. Honestly, in the UK, I don't see many NES stuff. I really don't see them much at all. I really want to have Zelda 1 and 2, so these are tempting, but I just don't have the console. I was too young for it, so I just never got one, but I'm always amazed when I do see it. We've got a bunch of Super Famicom games, including stuff like Donkey Kong, Yu Yu Hakusho, and we've got a bunch of toys as well. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, a lot of your old classic stuff. Moving on, we've got the Nintendo Switch stuff as well, and honestly, this is where I kind of spent a lot of money. There was so many titles, including this one, Kataria Fables. Kataria Fables is a 2021 RPG which focuses on crafting and, farming, and is quite comfy. It's got a decent review and was released on a fair few consoles, which you would kind of expect. It's very comparative to Stardew Valley and Rune Factory, maybe for a younger generations, however. Not something that's essential, but something that might turn a lot of heads. Moving on, we've got another copy of House Flipper. We've seen this a few times in the last few weeks, and Warriors Orochi 4. Now, you guys might remember not so long ago, I went to the Metro Centre in Gateshead, and I was looking for Warriors Orochi 4. This was sadly a cover reprint situation, but I'm not gonna lie, this is something that might have to come home with. There's a few other titles as well which you don't normally see. Balan Wonderland, Chocobo, Lego. I'm gonna have to stop buying these Lego games, I'm gonna be honest. There's so many out of them. We've got Into the Dead 2, never heard of that one before, but yeah, which selection isn't huge, but I think that there's a lot of hits there that is quite worth through, in my opinion. What I love about being in here is that you just see so many cool, unique things that you just wouldn't see otherwise. I mean, look, the Big Daddy Annual, 1984, must have. But we've got other stuff. We've got like Game of Thrones, we've got like Lord of the Rings stuff, Gremlins, a lot of fun media stuff that you just don't see otherwise. Xbox section is absolutely immense as well. We've got a lot of stuff like Facing Forwards, we've got a lot of spines as well, but yeah, I don't know, it's just so nice to just see a lot of these things just sitting out, waiting for you to pick up, waiting for you to try them. I find that a cover sells a game more than a spine does, at least my opinion. It's just so many games I've just picked up on a cover alone. Amiga stuff, Theme Park, we will see Theme Park a few times. I absolutely love this game so much. Theme Park as a game is an absolutely immense simulation. It's one of those ones that I grew up with and I played on the MS-DOS version. You basically have like your own little plot of land and then you've got to build like rides and stuff like that, and then attractions and like food stalls and drink stalls, but then you can kind of be a bit more manipulative. You can rack up the salt massively so the kids who buy the fries now they need to go and get you like a drink, well then you can put loads of ice cubes in the cooler so people have to go and buy more. You stick the gift shop outside the roller coaster entrance. It's all very ruthless and I wouldn't say obscene, but it's ruthless and just incredible. I love it. Amiga itself, I would love to play more Amiga stuff. I would really love to do it. Commodore as well. We've got Commodore and Amiga up in the loft. I just haven't played them in probably about 30 years. Moving on, we've got a lot of PlayStation 4 titles, a lot of more high-end stuff, more expensive stuff, a few collector's editions, you know, stuff like that. But it's absolutely fantastic seeing them all. PlayStation 2 collector stuff, Lara Croft, Ghost in the Shell, PS1 stuff, consoles. I would really want to own a PS1 with the screen at some point. PlayStation 3, I don't really buy many PlayStation 3 games simply because it's just not connected at this point, but it's always nice to see them. I love that. I'm sure it's a scarf, a Street Fighter 2 scarf or a towel or something. PlayStation 3 Steelbook of Infamous, I believe this is the second one. I played the first one, had a really good time with it. Really wish that franchise would come back. Moving into this cabinet, and we have a bunch of more just like bits and pieces. So we've got the Live Alive bookmarks. This is a lot of stuff that came like with games as kind of like pre-order bonuses or, you know, stuff like that. Stuff that you could kind of like you stash away and just never use again. There's a nice little Pokemon section, and we will talk about Pokemon a few more times in here. But it's always nice to see these kind of little things that you just don't see otherwise. We have a massive toy section as well, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Pokemon, Micro Machines, Transformers, lots of Pokemon, graded Pokemon stuff. I'm not big on graded stuff myself, but it's always nice to see. I do feel like graded stuff makes the cards look that little bit nicer, but that might just be me. Moving into PlayStation 4 and 5, and yeah, another wide selection here. Absolutely tons and tons of PlayStation 4 games. And honestly, I feel like I could have just spent so much. And there were so many titles I just hadn't even heard of before. Including this one, Stories of Seasons Doraemon. Now, Stories of Seasons Doraemon is a combination of Story of Seasons, the Harvest Moon, basically the Harvest Moon franchise that became its own little thing with the developers who of the original Harvest Moon eventually going on and doing Story of Seasons because of problems with the title, with the rights to the title. But Doraemon also combines Story of Seasons with Doraemon, which is a very, very long running anime about a talking cat. I've never seen this one before, and honestly I was kind of tempted to pick it up. However, I did know that it's actually got a Nintendo Switch release as well, so I might look and try and get that instead. Of course, next to it we've got the almighty Now That's What I Call Singing. Wow. Yeah, there's some good and there's some bad. Of course, that's in the same at any place. This was another one I'd never heard of before. Dungeons Free. Now, back in the day, I was absolutely obsessed with a game called Dungeon Keeper. A game in which you were basically the villain in the piece. You would build up your dungeon, fill it with traps and monsters and rooms, and they go out and wipe out the pitiful heroes. And Dungeons Free seems to be very much in the same vein. It actually touts itself as a combination between Dungeon Keeper and World of Warcraft. And honestly, I kind of feel like I should have picked this one up, but I'd already bought quite a few things. It was also a bit of a whim title. I don't know, maybe I should have picked it up. Have you played it? Let me know. Batman as well. Now, Batman Arkham Knight continues the whole world of Batman, Arkham, Asylum, and City. And both of those titles are absolutely two of my favourites on previous consoles. I've never actually played Arkham Knight. I heard a lot of middling things about it when it first came out, but I just never got around to it. Maybe I probably should have. Interestingly, this is a not to be sold separately version. I'm assuming it was bundled with the console at some point. Yeah, £5. That's always a cheap deal. Ace of Seafood may be one of the most strangest games I've ever encountered. It is a fighting shooting game in the same vein as, you know, like Star Wars or Lilac Wars, except you are fish fighting fish. Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. This isn't by any stretch of the imagination a good game, but it's possibly one of the most unique games I've ever encountered. I really wish I picked this one up, I'm going to be honest. Another title, Earth Defense Force 2. This one is always getting a lot of love and praise. I really enjoy the franchise. But honestly, it's nice to see so many hidden gems along with a lot of, you know, the usual stuff. Your Battlefields, your Spider-Man, your Just Dances, your Call of Duties. All of your familiar faces are all there, but there's a lot of hidden gems hidden amongst this. That's you. This game, it's about you. Yeah. Of course, you've got the Resident Evil titles. Now, Resident Evil 2 actually has an upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version. I'm assuming Resident Evil 3 does the same, so it actually is worth picking up on the PlayStation 4 if you do see them cheap. These are cheaper than the PlayStation 5 copy, so it's worth knowing that. PlayStation 5 it's kind of okay. A lot of it's like the new releases. It's kind of what you'd expect, you know, your Dead Spaces, your FIFAs, your other stuff. There's also this one, the Callisto Protocol, which was actually in French. I'm going to be honest, I didn't actually realise Alan Wake 2 actually had a physical release. I thought it was digital only for the longest time. So it's nice to see a physical version as well. The Nintendo selection is quite nice. We do have a cabinet full of somewhat more obscure Switch titles, including Worms Rumble. I'm not going to lie, I was tempted with this one, but then I found out it was a cord in a box. Boo. Which is a shame, but honestly, that Astral Chain, absolutely beautiful. If I'm honest, I kind of wish I picked that one up. If I hadn't picked up so many other titles, I would have picked that one up. Moving on, we've got a nice little Wii section. And yeah, a lot of heavy hitters. We've got Metroid Other M, we've got Link's Crossbow Training, Indiana Jones. GameCube selection is really nice with stuff like Star Wars Rebel Strike, this one as well, Legends of Wrestling. Now, this is a wrestling game in which you basically play as all of the, well, at the time were legends, still are. Of course, this was an early 2000s title, so a lot of the legends are obviously 90s wrestlers. You don't have obviously many people from mid-2000s onwards who are now deemed as legends. Of course, it does tend to be a lot of people who are no longer or weren't with WWE at the time, but it's got your Hulk Hogan's, your Bret Hart's, your King Lawlers, you know, it's got a lot of the people that you would expect to see in a Legends of Wrestling game. A few other titles as well. There's a lot of sports titles, and there's a lot of titles that I just wouldn't expect to see on the GameCube otherwise. I'm in a weird position with GameCube collections, otherwise I would have bought so many, but yeah, I just didn't buy many. I did buy something which we will see in the near future, but I also had my eye on this one, Reign of Fire. Now, Reign of Fire was a movie in which basically dragons get revived and then come and destroy the UK and the world. I remember seeing my brother playing this one on the PlayStation 2 and it looked so much fun. I don't believe it's considered a good game, but if you want to play as a dragon going around destroying everything, you might get some value out of this one. Otherwise, there's a lot of really fun titles, there's a lot of unique titles. There's so many titles that you just don't see. Consider CX as really bad kind of GameCube selections. It's always nice to see a wealth of them. cool title that I saw here was Fist of the North Star for PlayStation 3. Now, I'm going to be honest, I had this on the Wii U, and I just couldn't get it to work. Honestly, I couldn't get it to work. Now, this is another one of those Muso titles that, you know, you go around, you're an overpowered character, you go around killing everything. Honestly, Muso titles are incredibly fun. This one puts you in the main character of Fist of the North Star, which you know what that means? Punching people with an overly muscly guy, going around just punching people. You know the meme. You are already dead. Absolutely fun title. I just couldn't get it to work properly on the Wii U. It used to like get about 2 hours or something, maybe an hour, then just would randomly crash. It was very annoying. But honestly, there's so many nice titles. I forget how good PlayStation 3 was for like games in general. It had a lot of unique titles that just never made it across to further generations. But we also have PlayStation 2. Now, PlayStation 2 is a fairly cheap console to buy for, in my opinion. And it's got a lot of titles that just never made it further, including this one, Dropship. Now, I used to have the demo discs for the PlayStation 2 console, and this one was one that I used to play quite often. You basically have this like aircraft carrier in which you kind of have to drop like vehicles onto the ground, and then obviously you control the vehicles and what have you. It was very simple, but there was a lot to it, and I really enjoyed my time with the demo. Never went and bought the actual thing. But moving along, there were so many titles. There is one that I'm looking for PlayStation 2, but because I don't have the console hooked up, it's not one I'm prioritizing. I didn't see it today. It is Aqua Wetrix 2, simply because I just love Wetrix 1. But yeah, it is always nice to see PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 get a decent selection. There were so many great games for those consoles, so many hidden gems. I would love to delve into them more at a later date. PlayStation 1 was very much the same. They didn't have as many of the heavy hitters, but they had a lot of titles that we don't see often, including Gran Turismo. Now, everybody knows Gran Turismo, and this one is Gran Turismo 2. It expanded on what made Gran Turismo so great, the races, with a very in-depth campaign that, honestly, I would love to go back to. I remember picking up Gran Turismo 3 with the PlayStation 2. Never had the same feeling as I did with Gran Turismo 1 or 2, sadly. But yeah, it's just nice to see a lot of these games that you don't see otherwise. That, honestly, I feel like people sleep on the PlayStation 1's hidden gems a lot more than they do Nintendo's, which is a huge shame. This is a familiar face if you guys have watched my PlayStation 1 collection, Techno Mage. Now, this was a weird RPG in which you play as kind of like an older guy, and obviously his wife's pregnant and stuff like that. It was very slow going. It took me a lot of effort to get into. But yeah, it was one that I don't know why I always had my eye on it. And when I bought it, I was kind of like, oh, was that it? Oh, that was a shame. Scrabble. I love when they just randomly release Scrabble on every single console known to man at one point, apart from the N64. At this point, my friends showed me Simpsons Wrestling, which he said he liked quite a lot. I personally didn't have a good time with it. I felt the characters were really unresponsive, and it wasn't really a wrestling game. It was just kind of like a beat-em-up game in which you were beating each other up in a ring. It didn't have the same feeling as stuff like SmackDown and stuff like that. I feel like it's got a bit of a cult following at the moment, but yeah, it's not one that I really have much love for, if I'm perfectly honest. Magic Carpet. Now, Magic Carpet is an interesting title for me simply because it is by Bullfrog. Now, I've spoke about Theme Park, I spoke about Theme Hospital, I spoke about Dungeon Keeper. Magic Carpet was kind of like a very experimental title in which you're basically a guy on a magic carpet throwing spells and what have you and exploring this vast map. I've never played it. I've never played this one. This is one of the few Bullfrog titles I've never actually went and played. I'm actually hoping to actually get all of the Bullfrog titles eventually and do a big Bullfrog video eventually, because they are near and dear to my heart. I just don't have access to a lot of their titles, sadly. But honestly, I find like PlayStation is one of those consoles that you could just go and buy. You could just wander into a shop and just buy so many unique titles. There's so many greats on there, and there's so many greats for your childhood that don't get talked about in this day and age. Everyone talks about the RPGs, you know, like the first party titles. Not many people are talking about stuff like SmackDown 2, which honestly is one of the best wrestling games in my opinion. And I sank so many hours into the SmackDown franchise. While No Mercy was a better game in my opinion, SmackDown 2 did hold its own and was a very special time in the wrestling world. Now, one of the things that I absolutely love about this shop is the amount of PC box games. PC box games are an absolutely love of mine. You don't see them often, but it's always nice to see. And these guys, they've got plenty of theme park boxed. Absolutely beloved game. But in general, Amiga, we've got stuff like PC big boxed, we've got stuff like Commodore 64. There are so many nostalgic moments here because I love big box stuff and they don't get as nearly as much appreciation as I think they should, despite them being more or less everywhere at one point. I used to remember walking into stuff like Staples or Curry's or PC World and just being amazed by the amount of big box PC games that they used to have. It was absolutely fantastic, and it's not an era that I think can really be replicated. We've got a lot of Commodore, we've got a lot of Amiga stuff, we've got a lot of stuff that we just don't see in a lot of retro game shops that focus on consoles. An absolutely fantastic era that honestly I just think is slightly overlooked to this day and age. Doesn't get covered by a lot of YouTubers, but honestly I always appreciate it when I do see these. It's an absolutely special corner of the shop that I think deserves a lot more attention that maybe I should have given it a little bit more. We also see a lot of Pokemon cards. Now, these guys have a lot of great Pokemon cards. They have a lot of binders, and they've got a lot of cheap cards as well. Singles, I think, are reasonably priced. Booster packs, whatever, they buy from other people and have to resell them on. It is what it is. They have absolutely fantastic Japanese sections. Honestly, Dragon Quest, you've got Mario Kart. Just about any Super Famicom game we have like a physical boxed version of, including a lot of titles that we probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. Now, like I said many times in this video, I'm not clued up on a lot of this stuff, but I love Japanese box art. I think Japanese box art tends to be a lot more superior when it comes to the Western ones. They do a lot of more interesting stuff with a lot of titles, but it's also the fact that I'm a huge anime fan, so it's nice to see a lot of anime themed box sets, a lot of themed anime based games, stuff that you just wouldn't see otherwise. Fantastic shop altogether. Let's go back and see what I bought. Well guys, what can I say about Games Galaxy Consett? Absolutely fantastic, and I mean fantastic place to be. There's just something about it. Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest here. This isn't the first time I've been there. It's probably like the 5th or 6th. But every single time, as soon as I walk through that door, I just feel like I'm being transported back to my childhood. And for good reason. Now, some of you guys in the Northeast who are a little bit older might remember a chain of shops called Chips. Now, in Sunderland we had a Chips that was kind of where the bus station is now. That shut down. I don't remember when. I remember going and seeing Game Boy Advance games when the Game Boy Advance launched in that shop. I remember PlayStation 2. It was early 2000s when I remember last going in, so it's been closed for 20, maybe 25 years at this point. But when you walk into Games Galaxy, you'll be reminded of Chips. And, well, it turns out that the owner used to own Chips as a franchise. And, of course, things happened, and now it's been turned into Games Galaxy. But as soon as you walk into there, you are transported back to the 90s, the early 2000s, of that just fantastic feeling of walking into a game shop that just has just about everything for you. And that's the thing about Games Galaxy, it's got just about everything. You walk in, there are games to the right of you, there's Lego to the right of you, there's Pokemon cards in front of you, there's Warhammer, there's toys, there's manga, there's comics, there's anime, there's just about everything on top of retro games, imported games. You've got your Xbox, you've got your PlayStation, you've got your Nintendo Switch, you've got your Wii, you've got your GameCube. You've got just about everything you would expect to find in a retro game shop. But it's just the atmosphere, and I think that's what attracts me to the place. It's the atmosphere. You walk in, there's TVs on the wall just like playing not only the latest Nintendo Switch trailers, but you've got stuff from a little bit old, you've got other PlayStation stuff, but you've got like adverts from the 90s. I remember being in at one time that had all of like the old Rick Mail, like the Link's Awakening trailer and stuff like that. It was just such a good vibe of walking in and just feeling that you've been transported back. Honestly, it's absolutely fantastic. Now, just a few other little observations from me. I'm a huge fan of Pokemon cards, and I have noticed that the store has started to expand its Pokemon card selection. Obviously, Pokemon cards are absolutely huge at this point, and a lot of other retro game shops are starting to latch onto that. Just something that I kind of want people to be aware, because I have noticed as I have went, there has been more and more space dedicated for Pokemon cards. So I love Pokemon cards. I always feel like I get a good deal, especially with some of the singles. The booster packs, they're slightly expensive. Of course, they've got to buy them and then they've got to resell them for a profit. But the singles have always been fantastically priced. I managed to get a lot of GLC cards, a lot of playable cards for pretty much nothing. I think it's about 50 pence for a common, uncommon card, which some of the more playable cards, that is an absolutely fantastic deal. I've even getting stuff like the full art trainers and stuff like that. They're super cheap, especially when you compare them to like eBay. They're more or less card market prices, which is always nice. It's always nice to pick up a few of them. Now for haul, honestly, I could have spent so much more than I did. I was like a kid in a candy store. It was one of those nice things you can just go on, and I was just kept going, picking stuff up, putting this on the desk. I was like, this is when obviously they're checking the prices. There was just like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Because they've got everything front facing rather than being spined, it's a huge twist. Like, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of going to retro game shops and seeing everything just all spined. I love to see stuff front facing. Now, of course, physically, even with a huge shop like Games Galaxy, you can't have everything. And of course they do have some spined ones, but for me, being able to look and see what games are on the shelf means I'm not missing stuff. And it meant that I could keep going back and just picking stuff up. I could have spent so much more. But what did I pick up? Now, the first title I picked up was Worms 3D, and this is one that I just had to pick up. I already own it disc only, but of course years ago I binned the boxes for a lot of these ones. But you know what? It had the manual, it had everything inside. It was also a good price. Worms 3D is a departure from the 2D kind of Worms games that everybody grew up with, and it actually kind of works. It was a little bit of a short exclusion for this one. It was one that I picked up originally on my Xbox. That's right, I picked it up on the original Xbox, and I look back at my original Xbox games and it's just like, oh, it's Worms 3D, it was Roller Coaster Tycoon, it was Halo, and it's like, yeah, but I did pick it up on the GameCube, and I really like this one. It's not as good as the 2D ones. I think the 2D ones had just a very specific niche that just so much worked, and of course Worms as a franchise has went back to the 2D, but as a 3D entry, it is a lot of fun as well. I have so many fond memories of playing through this one, and it's quite a difficult one as well. It's a lot more difficult than the 2D one. And I remember they did like the Worms Fortress, and I think there was a Worms 4 Mayhem. I played them a lot less, but honestly, Worms 3D, absolutely fun title. Moving on from GameCube, back to the past, back to N64, and I bought a bunch of N64 titles, bringing my total to 159. That's right. I'm getting very, very more close to getting all of a full N64 collection, and Galaxy Games once again helped out to ensure I could get a bunch of titles, and I got them from a decent price as well. So the first title was Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. I'm going to be honest, some of these titles, they're not exactly thrilling. One of the biggest problems with the N64 for me is that there are a lot of sports titles, and I'm going to be honest, I'm never going to play a lot of them. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey is another one of them. It's one of those ones, it was the very first 3D hockey game on the N64. I know some people have said it was a launch title, but I genuinely don't remember it as a launch title. I remember it being a very early title, but not entirely as launch. Let me know in the comments, was this a launch title? But honestly, it's one of those ones, I've always heard good things about this one. It was always one that actually got a lot of good write-ups. I haven't had a chance to play it, but it's ice hockey, and it's ice hockey. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones, it's ice hockey. Yay! And moving on from ice hockey to another title, which again I have seen in CEX, but at the end of the day, it was boxed. I'm not really after a box copy of it. Nagano Winter Olympics 98. Now, it's not uncommon to get a lot of Olympic themed titles. Of course, we had stuff like Track and Field back in the day, which is a title that I actually do need to pick up. But we have had all of Mario and Sonic, we have had Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, we have like just about every Olympics event gets a tie-in game. So, of course, Winter Olympics 98 also had a tie-in, and again this is another one that I remember having mixed reviews at the time. I don't remember a lot of people having fondness for it, but it's a collection of mini games. Do we call them mini games? It's a collection of sports events which you obviously do in various Olympic courses and stuff like that. It is kind of what it is. It's one of those ones, again, I'm probably not going to play much of it, but it's one that needs to be in the collection for a complete set. And we're going to continue with the snow theme with Twisted Edge snowboarding. Now, everybody remembers 1080 snowboarding on the N64. It is one of the most beloved titles. I don't remember anybody talking about this one, but again, this is another one. It was super cheap. It was going to be another one that I had to add to the collection, and it's a snowboarding game. You know what it is? I actually have a little bit of a soft spot for snowboarding games. They are titles that I can just pick up and play and have a nice little enjoyment time with it. But it's not a franchise, or it's not a medium that I'm going to say, oh, I absolutely love and absolutely need to continuously play. Another nice cheap addition to the N64 catalogue. I will get down and sit and play all of these games one day, I promise. Once I've got a full collection, I will play every single game, and I will give a comment on every single N64 game once I'm done. You guys deserve it. And finally, and the final N64 game that I picked up was Virtual Chess 64. Now, this is one that has been in stock for quite some time at Galaxy Games. Every time I've went, I've seen it, and I've seen it, and I've seen it, and every time I've went, I was like, oh, I'll buy that. And it's always been kind of at a price where I was just like, oh, I think I'll leave it, I'll come back to it. And honestly, I just bought it. At the end of the day, it's one of those ones where I'm going to have to buy it eventually. It's not exactly an exciting one. I remember this one getting absolutely slated back in the day from the reviewers, and for good reason. So this is a chess game, virtual chess, and of course that's probably setting a lot of you guys to sleep. I like chess as a little game. This is not an optimal way to play chess. It is incredibly slow. A lot of the animations are quite fun, but you've got to see the characters kind of walk very slowly up, do their animation, and it takes absolutely forever to just play a game, as opposed to just going blip, 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 blip. At the end of the day, it's one of those ones, it was lampooned back in the day. It's one of those ones, I think it's kind of getting, I wouldn't say it's getting expensive, it's uncommon, you don't see it often. Even when you see like shops where they're selling like a bunch of N64 games, I almost never see this one. It's not like a cheap game, but it's not like an expensive game either. Overall, because I got this as a bundle, I was happy to pay it, and I'm happy to have it in my collection as 159. We're gonna have to find something good for 160. So you guys are well aware of my love of the Nintendo Switch and my task to try and get a very specific collection of Nintendo Switch games. And there's been one title that has not exactly been eluding me, but there has been a title that I've always felt was slightly expensive. A title that you can get on the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 3, PC, whatever, for next to nothing, but it's always been expensive on the Nintendo Switch. It's Skyrim. Yeah. it is Skyrim. Now, second hand, 30 quid Skyrim, I'm going to pick it up. It was on my list, I had mine on my list. I think it's about 35 to 40 pounds normally from CEX. 30 quid, I'm absolutely laughing. Skyrim is that open world masterpiece that, honestly, I feel like everybody played it at one point. It's one of those games that I feel like so many people have played it, and I remember playing it back in the day. I remember playing it on the PlayStation 3 where it did not work. Dragons flying backwards, random game crashes. I'm expecting this one's going to be a lot better. I've heard good things. I've heard good things about this port. It also includes all the DLC. Not exciting for some, but keep in mind that I played this back in the day when it very first came out. So I've never actually played the DLC. It's also got a bunch of Zelda DLC as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Skyrim. What more can I say about Skyrim? I like it. I don't love it. It's one of those games where I think, like, even at the time, it wasn't my favourite open world game, but I did play it pretty much immediately after Xenoblade Chronicles. So it's one of those games that I really liked. I remember sinking so much time into it, but it's not one that I kind of was like, oh, I desperately need to replay this. It's one that I always enjoy watching people play, and it's always one that I enjoy seeing people talk about, but it's never really been one that I've kind of felt, oh, I need to replay it. But now I have it on the Nintendo Switch, you gonna bet I'm going back to this world, because it's been, what, 15 years now. I'm looking forward to trying this one again. I'm really happy to have this one finally in the collection. Is it the cheapest way to play it? No. Is it the best way to play it? No. But when you're building a Nintendo Switch collection, you want to have all of the great games, and Skyrim is definitely a great game. Now, cast your mind back a few months ago. I went to Gateshead CEX to try and add a certain game to my collection, and it didn't work. Unfortunately, well, reprinted cover. And this is a title that I have noticed is increasing quite rapidly. There's about 2 copies of it in CX, one of which is reprinted cover. I don't see it elsewhere. Games Galaxy came in clutch. Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate. £24, which I believe is cheaper than CX. No reprinted cover. No reprinted cover. And yeah, nice little game. Now, the Warriors titles are absolutely enjoyable experiences. You play as a warrior, basically, and you go through these like arenas, these like campaigns, these maps, just killing hundreds to thousands of people. Now, Warriors Orochi is an interesting one because this actually combines the Dynasty Warriors series with the Samurai Warriors experience, but they also throw in a bunch of other characters. If I remember rightly, a previous one had Ayame from Dead or Alive. I believe it had Ryu from Ninja Gaiden. It has a lot of crossovers or of cameos from the other Warriors games. Of course, it doesn't have the branded ones. You're not going to have Monkey D. Luffy or Link coming in to break up the things. But honestly, it's one that I'm really excited for. Warriors games have been hit and miss on the Nintendo Switch in the past. I did actually sell off my Empires version a few months ago, and yeah, it just didn't run. But with the Switch 2, a lot of these have actually had a lot of their issues fixed because the Switch 2 can actually run and show up a lot of these characters, these thousands of characters, these hundreds of characters all on the screen at the same time. So, a Warriors Orochi is a crossover event. I'm excited to get into this one. This one was on the list, so we've got not one, but we've got two titles I can cross off the Nintendo Switch list. Really excited for this one. I'm gonna not play it immediately though, because we do have the Zelda one coming out like at this time of recording, like next week. It might actually already be out by the time this video goes live, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to play both of these. I'm really excited for them. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of Pokemon cards there, and I did buy a few playable cards for my decks. So of course I keep mentioning I do play the Pokemon TCG, but I also picked up a few full art trainers because they are a nice price. So the ones I picked up was Rourke, Ends Plan, Fennel, and I got the full art of Venonish, you know, the ice cream Pokemon. So guys, if it isn't already apparent, I absolutely had a fantastic time at Games Galaxy Consett, and I really implore you guys to check it out. I don't see many YouTubers actually going there, which is a huge shame. It's always a pleasure to go there. It's always nice to have that experience of being taken into the past, and once I discovered there was a connection between this shop and my childhood shop, Chips, it makes the experience all the more better. Like I said, they've got plenty of Pokemon cards, they've got a lot of imported Super Nintendo stuff, not so much regular Super Nintendo stuff, but they do have a lot of loose carts, a lot of loose Game Boy carts, a lot of expensive Game Boy games, a lot of expensive N64 games. There's so much there. I think it's always worth having a trek up, and it's worth pointing out that they do trade in a lot of stuff, so you can probably take up stuff, guides, that's one of the things. They sell game guides, so it's like you could take up game guides and sell, put them towards a game. I think they do prioritise trading over selling. Japanese imports, if you've got stuff like that, they take them. It's just nice to have a shop that does trade in a lot of stuff that other shops like CX won't take, for example, and it's just nice. It's just a really lovely experience. Huge thanks to the guys who work there for allowing me to video, and just thanks for having a really nice shop. And it's just really uplifting to have somewhere to go to, because I mean, this is, like I said, this is the 5th or 6th time I always go up as a group, and it's always a really great day out to go up retro game shop. You can only be in there an hour, 2 hours or something like that, but it is just a fantastic shop to get lost in, a fantastic place to experience. Thanks, and thanks again. And if you did like this, let me know in the comments. I'm looking for more retro game shops. Unfortunately, with me being in the Northeast, we don't have a huge amount, but rest assured, like I mentioned, 160 for N64. Let's get that sorted. Let's get the CX and see if we can get 160. See you next time.